War Eagle, and welcome to the channel, all my Auburn family members, but also fans of other persuasions that might be joining in to this particular topic. This is the E2C network where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here may be a little bit Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do, or anything that we can slightly relate to that. And that is what's going to be the case here on this stream today. Thank you for watching us, whether you are watching live or on the replay, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. We appreciate you hanging out with us, even for just a few minutes of your hard-earned time. On this live stream, we're going to be talking about the NCAA Tournament March Madness Round 1, discussing all the happenings, all the upsets, which there weren't really a ton of them, let's be honest. We're going to be discussing that in great detail. We will talk some Auburn stuff, and I'm wearing a special shirt today to remind a certain team that they didn't belong in the tournament. But we will discuss mainly a broad stroke of everything in the first round, just to kind of talk about brackets, upsets, players that stuck out, moments that stuck out. All of that is fair game on this live stream, trying to get you tided over until round 2 starts in just a little over an hour. That'll be kicking off with round 2, the round of 32. So as you're coming to the live stream or the replay, do me a favor. If you can, make sure you post where you're watching from, a city, state, international. Also, would love to see a couple of War Eagles in there as well. You can throw in your other little fan persuasion, chants, war cries, whatever you'd like to as well. That's fine here too. But just let me know in the chat who's here, who's watching live, and who's talking. Also, I've got the headphones on, so I figured on a spur of the moment thing that we would open up the call-in line for everybody to take advantage of in this show if you'd like to. No pressure. You don't have to be on camera. It can just be you in your audio form, if you want to call it that, calling in if you want to talk about something within March Madness round 1, Auburn related or not. So all of that is fair game. All of that is on the table, and make sure you smash the like button as we get things started here on this stream today. So let's get started by saying hello to a couple of people that are already in here. Cohen, one of our channel members. So is John. Good to see you guys. War Eagle to you. Rise Life also here. Neil White. War Eagle crazy how now there are only 3 SEC teams left in the tourney. 3 real teams, right? The ones left. Trey from Washington, D.C., good to see you. And that's probably a little bit of ways in the way that I thought we would have someone this morning. I thought it would just be all like Auburn, Alabama, Georgia people on the stream today. But good to see that we've got some people from across the country. Auburn getting a night game for once. Yes. Now, that can work 2 different ways, right? Think about it. It's a Sunday night. A lot of people need to get to work the next day. And for people in the Southeast, it's not the furthest travel destination. A lot of Auburn fans live in Georgia. Alabama is still not super far away. Tennessee, there's some Auburn fans in the Carolinas, upper part of Florida. It's not the worst travel destination, but the game will get over about 9:45, 10 if it goes to overtime. And that means you're getting home well past midnight. So it kind of doesn't work in the favor of those traveling to the game. At this moment, I'm not planning on going. I know I had said all week that I'd hope to be in Greenville. I am, do this every time, hedging my bets that we will be in New Orleans, so that when it's time to purchase those tickets, I won't have to flinch or hesitate as hard to pay those prices. It's kind of what I'm thinking here, from where I'm sitting at this moment. But yes, a night game will be nice for us watching at home, kind of the build up throughout the day, watching the rest of the games, and then it'll be a nice nightcap for everybody, even though there will be, I think, at least 2 games that start after us that evening. Google Maps says I'm in Alexandria, Alabama. I don't know where I am on the way to Florida. Interesting. Well, safe travels on the way down to Florida. And thanks for tuning in during your travels today. So what I really want to know from everybody, we discussed yesterday after the Auburn game, thoughts, impressions about that. Obviously, the thing that still sticks out to everybody is that humongous monster dunk thrown down by Jabari Smith at the end. We've covered that in great detail, and we can talk a little bit about that. But I'd like to talk some higher level round 1 stuff. We kind of even pushed a lot of that to the side on yesterday's live stream to cover it here today. So what's on your mind? How's your bracket doing? What stuck out to you most? Obviously, if you looked at the main picture of the thumbnail of this live stream, St. Peter's, the 15 seed, knocking off the 2 seed Kentucky. It's so juicy and so poetic in so many different ways that Kentucky lost to the Peacocks. I mean, there's every angle that we can announce. That's the big thing right there that we can discuss if you'd like to. Never in my wildest dreams did I think that St. Peter's would take down the mighty Kentucky Wildcats with Ty Washington. Uh, you know, it wasn't in Rupp Arena, so it must not have counted. I'm sure somebody was also hurt for Kentucky, so it must not have counted. And it doesn't matter. Everybody at the tournament showed up anyway for Kentucky. So just keep that in mind. Kentucky fans will remind you of how something is not legitimate or doesn't count every time they lose. It is kind of funny to watch them have to suffer in that misery of it's not like they lost to a Duke. It's not like they lost to an Auburn. It's not like they lost to a Memphis, to a Michigan State, to a Davidson. They lost to St. Peter's. And I'm disparaging St. Peter's at this point, but you lost to St. Peter's. It's pretty bad. Let's see here. War Eagle from Pensacola, Dusty checking in, one of our channel members and Booster Club members. Thank you, sir. The crazy thing is the guy he posterized, is what you're trying to say, looked like a grown man. Yes, that is a true. I had to explain to my wife, talking about Jabari Smith's dunk, I had to explain to her what posterizing someone means. And then she finally got it. And that was a true posterization. Rob checking in from Alabaster. Good to see you. Neil, this is the second time I can remember a high-seeded Kentucky team going down to a 14 or 15 seed. You know, so that's the funny thing. I think almost every year when we talk about upsets, and I was actually thinking about it this morning during breakfast, 6 and 11 seeds upsets, 11 seeds upsetting 6 seeds happen so much that I don't necessarily consider them really truly upsets, because most of the time, especially with the new first 4, not the new, it's been here for a while, the first 4 playing games, those 11 seeds are teams like Notre Dame. These are these last bigger programs that are getting their bids. And so they weren't terrible, they weren't great, but they're capable of doing some things. So Notre Dame now has made itself a way into the round 32 after playing in the first 4, for instance. So I don't really consider those major upsets. Now, the 5 versus 12 is, I think, the first major upset, and that at least usually happens at least one of those every single year. When you get into the 13, the 14, the 15, and then let's just kind of put the 16 seed over here because it finally happened. But there's usually at least one of those every year that happens. A 14, a 13, a 15 seed sometimes, a lot of the time, beats a team. And so St. Peter's is very much that for us. Now, Richmond, I think we're going to go down the list here of some of the games that I just kind of want to bring up as topic points. But yeah, Kentucky, I'm sure, has fallen before as a very high seed to a 13, 14, 15, but only one's fell to a 16 at this point. Virginia, I believe it was, who still double dribbled. Rob says, I got 78% on my bracket so far, better than my grades at Auburn. Wow. Hey, listen, I learned the value of D's get degrees at Auburn. I was a straight A, 4 point whatever GPA student in high school, a little too much of all that. And when I got to Auburn, I realized how difficult some of the classes were. And some of it was an effort thing sometimes, but it is what it is. So with that, well, I think that he brings up a great point. I love to know how everybody else feels their bracket's going. If you know your percentage, I will tell you in our bracket challenge that we're running right now with over 110 people in it, I'm not faring so well at the moment. My first round was not successful. However, if I'm correct in assuming this, in fact, I think I can confirm this on what I'm on right now. All but one, let me make sure, of my Sweet 16, I think, are intact. Let's see here. Yes. So I got out of the first round with only one Sweet 16 gone. So all my Elite 8, all my Final Four is still intact. Loyola Chicago messed me up big time. One of the bigger disappointments of the first round, as exciting as the St. Peter's game was, I want to talk about the Murray State game. What an incredible end to the first night that was. There were a lot of duds. Virginia Tech was one of them. who else was one of them? UConn was one of them. That was the 5-12 upset or on first day, losing to New Mexico State, who nearly beat us, the 5 seed, a few years ago. That's the thing that I found the most intriguing about the first round was not so much the upsets, because there wasn't a whole lot of them, but just the duds, the goose eggs that were laid by some teams that a lot of people expected to at least make it out of the first round. Cohen asked, when's the last time Kentucky didn't win the SEC regular season title, the SEC tournament, and went out in the first round? It's been happening a lot more recently, I believe. Obviously with the advent of Auburn being what they are now, Tennessee kind of getting past that losing Bruce Pearl hump and getting reestablished again, them establishing themselves. And then you've got, your Floridas, your Arkansas, that always kind of maintain there. Kentucky is no longer the big dog in a pack of 13 other teams that are just trying to see who can be the second best. This is they're very much the last 5 years at least having to compete at a high level to win either one of those threes. Dusty says, good thing I don't like Chick-fil-A. I'm almost in last place. Wait a minute, Dusty, how do you not like the Lord's chicken? You would like some of the treats in there, even if you did win. Crazy Cat, War Eagle, baby. Way to go, guys. I know. Wasn't that exciting game? It was a very exciting game. All right, let's walk through some of these things. There were a lot of, like I said, duds, and there were a lot of just kind of bland games a lot of the time in the middle of the day, and those were, some of those 1-16 seeds. Georgia State and Gonzaga. Georgia State kind of came in and showed Gonzaga a little bit of something in the first half, and then Gonzaga just turned it on in the second half, and they won 93-72. I was mistaken and flipped back this pick. Boise State and Memphis. I picked Boise State first, then I flipped it to Memphis the night before, and the morning of, I switched it back to Boise State. That one didn't work out for me. I didn't kid myself to think that Memphis wasn't good enough to beat Boise State. There was something about this that made me want to think that Boise State could do something. We talked about it already. UConn, who is one of the only teams to beat Auburn in the regular season, had to do it in double overtime? No, single overtime. Gets upset by New Mexico State. New Mexico State has shown the ability and the propensity to be able to upset some teams in the tournament. Almost did it to Auburn a few years ago. So they are one of the shining moments of March Madness so far. Davidson choked for me. Yes, Davidson did kind of lay a goose egg there, or not goose egg, but they had that one in the hand. The Jesus chicken strips, and that feels a little blasphemous, but I guess I'll allow it. Pickles, Kyle. Even when I say no pickle, I can smell and taste and spot them. Okay. I had Davidson in the Sweet 16. Yeah, that one hurt you a little bit, but that's kind of my Loyola Chicago. Hey, Clint, good to see you. What's up, man? Call in if you want to. Love to see you this morning if you're available. There's the call-in links at the top of the chat window. I think it's up there. Let me double check. Yeah, it's up there. If you guys need me to remind you throughout the stream, I will as well. Let me put it in there because I know sometimes you forget that it's all the way up at the top. So we'll copy and paste that and put that in if you want to take advantage of it. No pressure today, but yeah. Dusty, let's see. It says Davidson and UTC hurt me. I am so disappointed in Chattanooga because, every year the commentators, everybody talks up a certain small team, and Chattanooga was being talked up all, leading up to this March Madness tournament. And boy, did they come out and show that they deserve to be on that floor. And they had him. They had that team put away, and they just let it go. It was so frustrating to watch because it was like a slow drip. My nose keeps itching. I'm so sorry, guys. I don't know why that keeps happening. Must be getting the allergies. But it was very frustrating because I also had Chattanooga going forward into the second round, and I wanted to honestly put them into the Sweet 16 when I was making my bracket, but I didn't, thankfully, so it didn't hurt me super bad. But yes, that one hurt me as well because that was one of my few upsets that I had picked. Let's see here. He does admit that the waffle fries are on point. That's at least one concession we got from him today. I know I keep rubbing my nose, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why it's so itchy right now. I will gladly accept that Alabama didn't advance like I thought they would. Yes. I picked Alabama to win that one, not just because of them being the 6th seed, because I truly have seen what they've been capable of. You don't just walk into a season and beat Baylor. You don't just walk into a season and beat Gonzaga. Auburn had an opportunity to do that previous years and couldn't do it. And not have the ability to advance at least one round. But the problem with Alabama, as I'm wearing my shirt today, is you just don't know what team you're going to get. And someone even, I forget which commentator said it on Twitter, I believe it was, talking about the level of talent that they have and the fact of how far they've dropped off just by losing like at least one big name. I think it, what was his name? The big guy. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. Herbert, was that his name? No, was it Herbert? Anyway, how much they've dropped off since then. Wish Colgate could have pulled it off last night. Yeah, Kevin, a lot of you will remember him, and I'm not picking on you, Kevin, if you're watching now or on the replay, but I'm gonna use a look because you came into the comments late talking up your Colgate, and they looked pretty good. Let's be honest. They looked like they were going to be able to hang with Wisconsin. They did the entire game, but Wisconsin was just too much for them in the end, which makes me very worried for our Auburn Tigers if we can make it past Miami. So Colgate, is one of those teams that's advanced before a little bit further than they should have, and it looked like they were set up to do that again, but not a good matchup for them probably running into Wisconsin. Bama fans talking about firing Coach Oates is so funny, so sad. Hashtag keep Coach Oates. We love him. Keep him there. I did not see, Christian, the injury or the situation that happened and that's, honestly, that you never want to be a type of team that when you lose your one player that you fall apart. Just kind of already made that point with Herb Jones. That's who Minion Mafia is reminding me of. If that's what happens, it's kind of the case that Kentucky was making about Ty Washington when Auburn first played. Oh, we would have won if Ty was here. Well, if you fall apart because of your one player, then you weren't that good. I mean, that's what happened with Auburn. They lost Zep Jasper for a couple rounds. He wasn't their best player, but he was an integral player, and they started taking a couple losses for a little while until he got back. So at least one until he got back. So you can't blame your losses, and you're not as good of a team if you just fall apart because you lost one player. It's called a team, not an individual. Now, if you got Jabari Smith, that might be a little bit different of a story. Blake says that Bama has tons of talent, but if you ask me, they are the most inconsistent team in the NCAA, should have not made the tournament, I think is what you're saying there. I did not see the post-game presser. I tried to spend my time not focusing on Alabama, although I am wearing the T-shirt today. It's been sitting in the closet in the rotation, and I was like, you know what? Today seems appropriate since they lost, so I'm going to wear it today. Tom Crean is the guy for Bama, and Kentucky has full of excuses all season. Rob says, I got Auburn beating Miami, but losing to Wisconsin. Yeah, I think that's a very logical conclusion. We shouldn't overlook Miami. It looked like USC was going to complete that comeback that they made against Miami, but Miami kind of responded to that situation and now moves on to the first round. So it's not a case of who would you rather have? You know who you have. 7:45 game. Don't really know how the Tigers match up to that team. I haven't really looked too far into that, but we're going to focus mainly on the first round right now. Let's see here. All right, more games. Texas Tech walloped Montana State 97-62. Arkansas got into a fight with Vermont. That nearly was or had the potential to be an upset, a bigger upset, with the Catamounts losing 71-75. Duke handled business in the first round. There's probably, I can remember like 2 games at least that I didn't watch any minutes of. I pride myself during March Madness of at least tuning over to every game at least once. I didn't watch any of the Arizona game, the Duke Cal State Fuller game, or the who was it? Kansas game, because they were walloping whoever they were playing too. Last night, the game that was very good at the end, Michigan State and Davidson. Michigan State had created themselves enough of a buffer to where they, um, every time Davidson responded, they had this little buffer to kind of protect themselves. So that was a really good game, and I thought it would be. Don't count out Tom Izzo. I'm not saying now. Here's the problem. I usually say that and put Tom Izzo into the, uh, Sweet 16 at least. I have him losing in the next round, but he'll at least win his first game. That's kind of usually what I mean. Yeah, Dusty, that was a good day. Auburn did beat number 1 Ole Miss yesterday in baseball. That was a good thing. USC turned the ball over nearly 20 times and still almost beat Miami. It's a good stat to point out, but everybody plays each other different, so we'll see if that carries over. Miami uses a lot of random traps, but their intensity changed throughout the game. It got really sloppy in the second half. One thing that Auburn really prides themselves on is their defense. And if their offense meets, or at least, just is serviceable, they're a very hard team to beat, has been proven through most of the season. When their offense is not going, that's when you can beat them. But their defense typically always shows up. All right. As a reminder, if you'd like, please do call in throughout the show. You can take advantage by clicking the link at the top of the chat. It's been shared a couple times in the chat as well throughout our stream, and I'll do it a couple times here before we leave. Just want to take a short break here to remind you of what our show is brought to you by today. Today it is our Booster Club. A lot of our people here that you've seen today are members of the Booster Club. It starts at $1 a month. Get different little perks, access to other content that nobody else gets there. Over at patreon.com/E2C Network. The link is in the description. So please do check that out. We are mainly listener supported and viewer supported because we run podcasts alongside this YouTube channel. So all our content is driven by the support of viewers like you. Sound like PBS now. So please do check that out if you can, if you're interested. There's other things that you can do support, such as hitting the like button now. But check those links out in the description. All right, we talked up the West bracket enough, I think. Let's talk a little bit about the East bracket. Baylor, Wallop, that was the other one. Baylor, Norfolk State, I didn't watch it all. North Carolina and Marquette. Marquette was the dud for me on day one. I mean, just absolute dud. Awful dud. I knew it was a stretch for them to beat North Carolina, but I thought they would at least put up a game. And boy, did they just get pummeled. This honestly, that was probably the worst game of the first round for me, just in terms of like, wow, that was a huge miss. 63-95. Marquette usually puts up a fight in the tournament, and it was terrible yesterday. Dusty brings up a great point for Auburn. Hopefully that Jalen Williams will clear concussion protocols. I haven't actually checked in on that situation, know exactly outside the chip tooth if he had anything else going on. He will be very much necessary for Auburn's win. I do think Auburn isn't getting the respect for their defense that they deserve. I believe it was like 8th adjusted defense in Kim Pom. Well, as you've seen, some of these rankings sometimes have either been very wrong or rankings sometimes they're subject to a little bit of subjectivity. I'm not going to argue that Auburn's defense is not good. It clearly is, but everybody matches up with everybody differently. So we'll see how it favors for Auburn or not when we play Miami. Let's see other games in the East bracket. St. Mary's. I think St. Mary's looks pretty stout. Now they played an Indiana team that's been a lot like Alabama this year, at least from what I understand. Kind of hot and cold. They're going to take on a UCLA team that was given all they could handle by Akron. So I feel pretty good that St. Mary's will move into the Sweet 16. That's where I have them. Don't really have a lot to say about UCLA Akron, other than I was surprised that Akron put it to them for a little while. Texas, Virginia Tech. This was the other big disappointment for me, and the big disappointment of yesterday. I thought Virginia Tech, and you look at the score, 81-73. It doesn't look all that bad, but it was still throughout the game. Texas was pretty much always in the lead, and a considerable lead at that. I also thought that Yale, seeing as Auburn had played them this year, would put up at least a little bit more of a fight against Purdue, but Purdue looks very, very, very stout. Looks like a very strong 3 seed in the tournament. We've talked in these 2 games. I think we need to talk about a little bit more detail here, if you would like to. We'll get to that TCU Seton Hall one in a second. He went to the dentist after the game for the teeth. He's being evaluated for concussion after that. Gotcha. They're getting him quickly into the dentist. I thought they would just do something temporary to get him through the next game, but I guess the concussion protocol is the main thing. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't get through that, but I wonder what he's going to have to wear to protect that region of his mouth. Talking about that Seton Hall matchup. We'll talk about that in a second. All right, Murray State. A lot of Auburn fans know how special Murray State has been to us this year. They were one time our foes, not just in game format, but in social media format, and have woken up and become our brethren in arms. And what a game to end the first day with Murray State and San Francisco. I couldn't take my eyes. I'm going to be honest with you. I had it on my phone right here in the shower, like up on the ledge where it wouldn't get wet, so I could keep watching it because it was going so late. Incredible game. It's those type of games that make March Madness special. And it's not that I didn't enjoy the first round. I just felt like we would have a few more of these. And we got those, the Davidson, the Michigan State, the Murray State, the San Francisco, the surprising upset in this same sub-regional of the East. Is that what we're talking about? The East regional with Kentucky and St. Peter's. But outside of those, it's really hard to think of any really cool special moments. San Francisco, it was led by former Auburn basketball assistant coach, Todd Golden, and he almost got himself a date with St. Peter's. So your second round matchup that nobody thought would probably happen, Murray State and St. Peter's, should be interesting. The Peacocks taking on the Racers, who have embraced the Auburn peacocking of this year. I have Murray State in the Sweet 16, so no offense to St. Peter's. You have to catch lightning in a bottle twice. I don't think you're going to make it past the Racers. At least that's how I feel about it. All right. So that is the East bracket. Someone brought up Seton Hall and TCU. That one was a dud. So we're in the South now. That one was definitely a dud. 42-69. I made the stupid, idiotic decision to put Seton Hall through. They just didn't look like they knew how to play offense. That was bad. Brought up Arizona and Wright State. That one was pretty boring. So that whole sub-region of the South regional was pretty boring. Not really too much excitement there. I had heard TCU's defense was pretty good, so I guessed on that one. So let me bring – it's not that I'm discounting TCU's defense. I just saw a Seton Hall team that didn't look competent on offense, and I haven't watched them maybe like one other time this year. So I'm not like an expert on them, but they just didn't look like they knew what they were doing at all. So the TCU Seton Hall matchup was a little bit disappointing. Houston UAB. UAB tried a couple of times to bring the fight to Houston, but they were just too much for them. What makes this the most sad for me now is and even though this includes Alabama, and I'm wearing the Beat Alabama shirt, it was cool to start off the tournament with 4 Alabama teams. You had Alabama, Auburn, UAB, and Jacksonville State. The problem was you were immediately going to go down to 3 either way, whoever beat the other, Auburn or Jacksonville State. And you had hoped maybe one of the others, preferably not Alabama, UAB, that would leave the only one there, would be able to get through to represent the state. Because that was a really cool fact. The fact that 4 teams from the state of Alabama were represented in this tournament was a really cool fact. And now we stand here, which is why we're the leaders of the state when it comes to basketball. What else stuck out to you guys from this side of the bracket? We've talked a little bit. We can touch on it some more. That Chattanooga, Illinois game. First of all, the guy from Illinois, I forget his name, Kofi Colburn or whatever his name is, Kofi Colburn. A lot of people talked him up. He is a beast, an absolute beast. I had hoped that he was going to get eliminated and that team was going to get eliminated by Chattanooga because I did have them going into the next round. As much as I wanted to have them beat Houston and put Chattanooga in the Sweet 16, I am glad that I did not do that. Rob, great question. I addressed this a little earlier. I am probably not actually going to end up going to Greenville. Again, I'll just for those of you that heard this explanation earlier, I am hedging my bets that we are going to make it to New Orleans. And my rationale has always been this, that there's probably not going to ever be a time where there's the highest likelihood that Auburn can make the Final Four. Being a 2 seed, you think it's highly likely they could. And it's that close, meaning reasonable drivable distance. And I'll be honest with you, this is not me. I'm not assuming that Auburn is making the Final Four, but I've already got a room reserved down there because I don't want to have to deal with the hassle of every Auburn fan in that situation rushing to take up all the prices and jacking the prices up. So basically, what I've told myself is, look, you may be missing out on a great opportunity to drive 2.5 hours away to see them right now, but you're never going to get an opportunity like this where it's going to financially make the most sense to go to a Final Four. And even if Auburn went to the Final Four, lost in that round, and then didn't make it the championship game, I'd probably still go to the championship game because it's a cool event. You'd go either way. So anyway, that's my explanation for that. So I'm not leaving for Greenville unless somebody wants to give me a ticket. You give me a ticket, I'll drive over there right now. But it is going to be a more expensive ticket. I think it was at about $140 last time I checked, which is, it's not terrible. And I think that's for the whole session. So you get to see Duke. That's the problem, is you're in the same regional as Duke, and they're all there to see the last dance for Coach K. Minion says, I didn't realize coffee for Illinois was that big. Dude is a beast. I mean, so he's tall, obviously, but it's just muscle upon muscle. And I'd heard about it, but I'd never seen that. And so I'm kind of wondering now, can Illinois get past Houston and then find out if they're going to be able to play Arizona? That'll be a good matchup to see who gets into the Elite Eight there. I'm ready to see Tennessee put it on Michigan, so that's down there as well. Tennessee handled Longwood. Longwood gave them a little bit of a run in the beginning, but quickly became Tennessee's game. And then Michigan taking down Colorado State. That was a little bit of a disappointment too. I had Colorado State. It was one I switched at the last second. I had picked Michigan to win that one originally, and so I'm kicking myself on that one. What do our fans do if we meet St. Peter's Peacocks? Well, for that to happen, we would have to meet them in the championship game. So we are safe on that. And no offense to the Peacock fans, but I highly doubt that you will run through the likes of Murray State, Purdue, Baylor, and then likely either a Gonzaga or Duke coming out on the other side of that bracket. So I think Auburn fans will find a way to get through that. If in the unlikely scenario that happens, we'll find a way to get through that struggle there. Rob, no, I don't have any updates on basketball recruiting right now. You know, this channel is not super big on recruiting. We will discuss it from time to time, and I know y'all super enjoy that when I do that, but not at this time. I will say, though, I was thinking about this the other day, that I hope that there's a contingency plan for a big man to come play alongside Jalen Williams. That was supposed to say Devin Cambridge, Cardwell, and Babatunde Akingbola next year. I think we need a fourth one in that mix. I'm on a travel for work, and True TV is the only channel I don't have any free ways to watch. Unfortunately, I don't know of any free ways, but you know, I do not condone this, but I'm sure there's some pirated sites out there. You know, sometimes following along with the radio broadcast, the Auburn app, if you have that, you can follow the radio broadcast. They will show that for you, or not show it for you, but you can at least get the funny antics of Andy Bertram and Sonny Smith together. That's always a good one. Rob says, if you go to New Orleans, check out taking the Amtrak. It's a great, relaxing trip. Rob, you must be friends with Clint Richardson. Clint, if you're still watching, Here is your fellow compadre. He is a huge fan of the train system and wanted us to take that when we all went together to the Sugar Bowl. We all wanted the flexibility of having a car, though, and I will do the same thing because my mother lives in Montgomery, and so I will make an opportunity to go visit her on the way through there. So I appreciate the advice, but unfortunately, I will definitely be driving just because, you want to have that flexibility is really what it amounts to. Christian says he feels like Allen is due for a big game. I think he showed signs of him maybe figuring something out. We talked a lot about for Auburn, they're needing to be one of those guys that has been a smaller contributor this season, stepping up in a big way, like a Dangel Purifoy. Maybe it's Allen. Maybe it is. We shall find out, sir. All right, what else in this bracket? Tennessee looks pretty stout. They'll probably wax Michigan, as someone brought up. Ohio State disappointed me by beating Loyola Chicago, who only put up 41 points. Sister Mary? Is that her name? Sister, I forget her name. The older lady who like scouts for the team and stuff like that. Not legitimately, but just as a fan perspective. She was disappointed yesterday, and I was as well, because Loyola Chicago. I almost made it out of the first round with my Sweet 16 intact, and that hasn't happened in a long time. I usually take 2 or 3 losses in the Sweet 16 and maybe an Elite 8, but the fact that I'm frustrated with my bracket because of how many second guessing I did in some situations, and I would have done a lot better in the first round. The good thing is this is everybody who is excited about their first round forgets that you need to really be looking long-term if you're wanting to be successful. Sister Jean, thank you, Will. Sister Jean, everybody was reminding me of that. I could not, Sister Mary just felt right. I don't know why. But yeah, so there's that as well. Villanova looked pretty good against Delaware. So that was the thing yesterday, midday. There were a lot of kind of not great games. It was bookended by the evening, all that kind of stuff. Will says, go Vols. So are you a Tennessee fan, Will? Are you also in a bracket challenge? Are you the guy that picked the Tennessee Vols? I will tell you that I don't think picking Tennessee for a long run in this tournament is a bad move in any sense of the word. I have Tennessee in the Final Four against Auburn, and I'm hoping it happens because I want sweet, sweet revenge. Bruce Pearl beating Tennessee in the Final Four. It doesn't get much better than that. Now, they have to beat them. They have to get there. Both teams do. I think Tennessee, just looking at it, Michigan probably they'll run over. Villanova will be a tough game, but I feel like they can beat that. Arizona is probably their toughest matchup. Auburn's got to get through Wisconsin and then Kansas. Oh, excuse me. Let me back up. It's got to get through Miami. It's not going to be a pushover. It's probably going to be a really close game, and got to get through Wisconsin and Kansas. I think Auburn's got the tougher road to that. Cohen has Tennessee winning it all. There you go. UT and Auburn. A lot of people were hoping for the all SEC Final Four being Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, and Kentucky. No, actually, it would have been, Auburn, Arkansas, and Kentucky. Kentucky messed that up for y'all. All right, finally, let's talk a little bit more about the Midwest region, because we've talked all the way through the other ones. We've talked a lot about Auburn being Auburn fans here, right? But Kansas walloped Texas Southern. San Diego State put up a fight against Creighton. Creighton came back, and that was a pretty decent game as well, so I'm impressed with them. Iowa gets up. This is the other bigger upset. Iowa gets upset by the Richmond Spiders. Did not see that one coming. That's probably the one that took me the most by surprise. Even though there were some eggs laid by teams I was expecting to pull off upsets or win, the Richmond Spiders are my St. Peter's is the biggest surprise. Who am I kidding? But, outside of just outlandish things like that happening, I was not expecting the Richmond Spiders to do that. Will says, I respect Auburn. I love watching Jabari, but I'm not sure they have enough to make it all the way. And I would say you're not that questioning Auburn making it all the way is not a unreasonable thing. As we've talked about, I don't know how long you've been on the stream. one of the things that Auburn has to have happen is the offense match the defense. Their defense has been pretty consistent every game, really good, top 10 probably level defense, depending on what stat or ranking you look at. But their offense outside of Jabari and Walker Kessler, you kind of sometimes have to wonder who's going to be the other guy. You need that third person consistently hitting double digits, and sometimes their guards haven't done that. So if the guards show up, like they did in game 1, Auburn will be fine. If Auburn hits on 90% of its cylinders, they'll beat anybody because they have that type of talent. But if they're about 75, it kind of starts falling apart very quickly, as we've seen. A lot of people have Creighton taking Kansas out, but I don't see it. I would, I'm a fan of chaos when it's not my team. So if that happens, and Creighton, I believe, it's in Kansas, right? I think so. So that'll be a nice little matchup there. Providence Friars. I have them. It's another one I'm a little worried about. They're the most highest ranked lower mid major, whatever you want to call them, that you can see right now. And they looked pretty good against South Dakota State. A lot of people had them potentially upsetting Providence. And for a while there, it looked like it had an opportunity to do it. But Providence pulled away and gave themselves enough of a cushion. LSU showed more fight than I gave them credit for. So hats off to LSU after everything that they're going through, the players. Obviously, Will Wade, glad he finally got what was coming to him, and just, I know that sounds mean-spirited, but after what Auburn's been through with Bruce Pearl and the scrutiny and the level that the people that just hate him just because they assume they heard this news and that's what he did, and they don't really know the full story. Will Wade, the stuff that he's done has been proven, and we've been wondering why he hasn't gotten his comeuppance. So he finally did. So I was happy to see LSU put up a fight against Iowa State, because I did flip back my pick to Iowa State, eventually thinking they couldn't overcome all of that adversity, and that proved to be true. So it's kind of like I've told you before, those 6 and 11 seeds, I don't necessarily see as major upsets. I mean, let's go over here and look, for instance, 6-11, Texas, Virginia Tech. I had picked Virginia Tech to win that one, and I felt pretty confident, proved to be wrong. But Alabama, Notre Dame, that one won. Actually, let's look at this. So 11, did all the 11 seeds win? No, so Virginia Tech didn't win. So all but one of the 11 seeds didn't win. That's pretty crazy. So it shows you how competitive that matchup is. Rob, thank you, sir, for the super chat. Appreciate that. New Orleans tip change. that will go towards making sure in that one moment where I'm out of gas, paying for the exorbitant prices those are right now, that I'll get at least maybe to that hotel if something happens to me. So thank you so much. That is very much appreciated, sir, for that super chat. Will says, as a Tennessee fan, we both can agree that we love seeing Kentucky go out in the first round, though. Absolutely, sir. It's pretty nice, isn't it? They were supposed to lose to the Jackrabbits, Christian says. I will say, people talked up the Jackrabbits a lot, and I kept kind of, being very skeptical of that. I was impressed with what I saw, and I would not have, I would have taken that L in my Sweet 16 to see the Jackrabbits. Love their color scheme too, blue and gold, or blue and yellow. I think it's not gold, it's yellow. And Jackrabbits, you just don't see that type of mascot. Sometimes I'm just like, I want to see the mascot. The Friars versus the Jackrabbits. It's just a cool matchup. We all know how invasive Bama fans are. Why are they never trolling our basketball streams? Well, because the Arkansas fans took care of that this season. They were the invasive ones this year. Dusty, you know why that is because they think that there's something in basketball and they're not. Kevlar says that New Mexico State surprised me. Got to see what happens with the Arkansas game. Yeah, that'll probably be a better matchup than people are expecting. We talked about it, kind of finishing out our region, the Midwest. We talked a lot about the Colgate game earlier on. We had a fan who's been here. Hope you're still watching, sir. That was very big on Colgate. They looked impressive, but just Wisconsin was too much for them. I've heard how slow Wisconsin plays, but I did not see a slow team in that game. They look to be very much dynamic, moving around good. Not a high scoring game, 60-67, they get the win, but I'm a little worried about a Wisconsin game if Auburn is able to beat Miami and make it to that point. And then we talked about the USC Miami game, Auburn at length here. I don't really know what to make of this matchup. Just in terms of what I would have preferred, not because I think that they're easier, just because I like the match. I just think it's a cool matchup, the Trojans versus Auburn, but instead Miami and Auburn will face each other in that round. So that is a walkthrough of the first round. Whew. We made it all the way through. So if you'd like to, I can take at least 1 or 2 calls if you'd like to. That is open for anybody to call in and discuss March Madness first round. If you'd like to take advantage of that, the link's at the top. Post it here one more time. I'll leave it open for just another minute or two for anybody that would like to take advantage of that. Anything else that stuck out to you? Big plays, moments, upsets, things that made you upset. How's your bracket doing? All of that's fair game here on this stream. I will give you a preview of my Sweet 16, and I've addressed them a lot. I have currently Auburn, Wisconsin, Kansas, Providence. I had Loyola Chicago. It will now be Ohio State or Villanova, Tennessee, Arizona, Houston, Gonzaga, Arkansas, Texas Tech, Duke, Baylor, St. Mary's, Purdue, and Murray State. A little worried about some of those. I will say I wasn't so much bold with my first round picks, but getting to, I've got Murray State. I had Loyola Chicago. I've got Providence, even though they're a 4 seed. I think that's a bit of a scary one. And St. Mary's, I think, is still kind of questionable too. I've got a lot of questionable ones there. Dusty says, I picked the Jackrabbits as well. They had shooters and were 0-5 all time in the dance. I thought eventually they had to break through. Guess that line of thinking is why I'm 109th place. I did see that in our bracket challenge, Dusty, and I felt bad for you, sir. Listen, hey, it is what it is, right? I am not doing very well at all. I am usually in the top, I think we average roughly about 100 or so people usually on these bracket challenges every year. I think one year we did 300. That's when we had Anders as a sponsor. Hashtag pouring out for Anders. That's gone. But that year I was in the top 10 the entire time. I usually finish in the top 20 or something like that. I don't know that I'm going to do that at this point. The rate is going for me right now. So anyway, all right. Last minute comments, questions, derogatory rebuttals. Get them in now. Let's discuss a couple things that I want to bring your attention to. As we talked about, our stream is brought to you by our Booster Club. Please do check that out. If you are not a member of it, it would be much appreciated. $1 a month, you get exclusive access to content nobody else gets, like bloopers, insights from myself, updates on things before anybody else. We a lot of time let you affect the content of this channel at certain levels too. Things that you want to see, topics you want to see covered. All of that's there on the Booster Club, patreon.com/E2C Network. Starts at $1 a month and goes up to different tiers. And you've seen several people like John, like Dusty. Forgive me if I've missed some of you that have popped in as well. But those are the 2 that I remember that popped in there that are Booster Club members. And there are other links there as well to pay attention to. As a reminder, we will be going live tomorrow after the game. Right after it, usually, no more than 5 minutes or so, as long as I can get my technology up and running, which most of the time works. So be ready for that. We'll probably post that live stream link tonight late to have ready for you guys tomorrow so it'll be a late night stream, but hope you guys will be here. And hopefully we're celebrating a berth into the Sweet 16 for Auburn. Do not look past the Miami game. Do not. If you do that, you will be disappointed. It's just how the way things go for Auburn. It's going to be a tough matchup for them and still a very tough road for Auburn to make it into the rest of the tournament. I do think overall they got one of the better regions to be in, but that does not mean that it is going to be an easy road by any stretch of the imagination. Overall, my thoughts in the first round, there were some good high points. There were some very low points for me as well. So it's kind of been a very hit or miss first round. I'm hoping this second round is going to have much, much more excitement. I would like to see fewer and fewer of those beatdowns and disappointments as we saw. But March Madness is always good, and March Madness is always worth it. And I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning into our stream. We're going to close down the phone lines now. And I hope you guys are subscribed, hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our uploads or live streams here on this channel. And make sure you smash that like button on the way out if you have not done so, because it does help the stream out. Enjoy the second round. Thanks for tuning in, and War Eagle.